What is our final main topic today?
Next one is from Collin Tipton. So IndieWire reported some really off comments from Zack Snyder regarding his murderous Batman from Batman vs. Superman. Is it strange to me to feel a little attacked by these comments as someone who believes Batman should never kill? What are your thoughts?
All right, so what Colin is talking about is, there's been this big debate raging ever since Batman versus Superman. Batman, in the midst of combat, ends up killing a couple guys, like every other comic book movie character in the world. How come when Batman does it, it's called murderous? How come when anybody else does it, it's just, oh yeah, that's just a regular superhero stuff? I mean, do you know what the body count of Tony Stark is? Anyway. But when it's Batman, it's called murderous. That frustrates me, at any rate. Now, I can only imagine if you and I are sick about talking about should Batman kill. Can you imagine how Zack Snyder must feel about it? Can you imagine how Anyway, Zack Snyder was recently speaking, and the whole topic came up about, Batman killing and should he kill and all this kind of stuff. And this is what Zack Snyder had to say. He said this. Someone says to me like, oh, Batman killed a guy. I'm like, F, really? I'm like, wake the F up. That's what I'm saying about once you've lost your virginity to this effing movie, and then you come and say to me something about like, oh, my superhero wouldn't do that. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like down the effing road on that. You know what I mean? It's a cool point of view to be like, my heroes are still innocent. My heroes don't lie to America. My heroes didn't embezzle money. My heroes didn't commit any atrocities. I'm like, that's cool, but you're living in an effing dream world. Now, he does also go on, I just didn't have room to fit it in here. He goes on to make a comparison, Rob, that I thought was pretty interesting with Moore's Watchmen. He says, one of the whole reason Moore made Watchmen was as a response and a reaction to this spit and polished, crisp and clean, super virtuous, completely unrealistic view of superheroes. And that him making Watchmen was a little bit of a response to that. Now, he went on to say that. Now, look, let me say this. Did what Zack Snyder say to fans appropriate? No, it wasn't. Was how he addressed this to people who are fans of Batman and probably fans of his to come out and stomp them down that hard? Was that appropriate? No, probably not. And I'll agree with you on that. I'm not going to defend what he said. I will say this, though. Keep this one mitigating circumstance in mind. Like I said at the top, if you think you and I are getting tired of talking about should Batman kill, it's okay that Batman killed, Batman would never kill, blah, 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 all that argument. If you think you and I are tired about it, can you imagine how much he's been hit with that question over the past couple of years? Like probably every frickin' day, 5 dozen times a day. And can I, just as a human being, understand that some guy reaching maybe a little bit of his wit's end on that question, just going, wake the F up, like grow up, or blah, blah, like I can get it. Am I defending it? No, I'm just saying, let's at least keep in mind the mitigating circumstances that you and I probably wouldn't have responded much differently than the way he did. You and I would probably not have responded much differently. And so that's fine. The other thing I want to say about the whole Batman situation is this, is that I am one of the guys who completely believes that it is perfectly acceptable, just like every other superhero we've seen in the movies. I mean, hell, in Avengers Infinity War, Thor talks about how the fact that he's 1,500 years old, and how many did he say? I've killed 10 times as many? Like, however many years old times 10 or times 3 or whatever it was he said. Thor has killed thousands. Just watch any of the MCU movies. Iron Man has killed a lot of people. Captain America has killed people. Everybody killed people. When it comes to Batman, they lose their mind. Now, I understand there are a lot of people who grew up watching the Batman animated series, where he had, in that cartoon, he was deadly against guns, deadly against killing. My view on this, Rob, has always been this. It is a fairy tale to believe that Batman has never killed people. It's a fairy tale. Because here's the thing. Even in the comics, in which he has killed people before in the comics, but even in the comics, Batman visits unholy violence on people constantly. I remember this one particular framing of Batman swinging into this abandoned, broken down house where there's a thug, right? And Batman smashes knees first into the guy's chest. They break through a wall and then fall down 2 stories with Batman landing knees first onto this guy's chest. And then the thought bubble on Batman going, 6 broken ribs, a ruptured spleen. He'll be in traction for a year. No, he wouldn't. He'd be dead. He'd be dead. And then we see Batman slamming guys' faces into concrete walls and blah, blah, blah. It's like 7 missing teeth, blah, blah, blah. His jaw will be wired for a year. No, he won't. He'll be dead. And a lot of times they try to play this fairy tale game in the comics with Batman, where he can visit unspeakable violence on people. Oh, but they're fine. They're not dead. You know what it reminds me of, Robert? Remember the old A-Team show? Where Hannibal and Face and, Howlin' Mad Murdoch and B.A., they'd fire bazookas at cars that are chasing them. That would kill everybody in the car. But the TV network made sure to show a quick shot of the guys who were in the car crawling away. Don't worry, everybody. They're blowing up buildings and blowing up cars and using M16 rifles and shooting, but they've never killed anybody. Everybody's fine. It's like, come on, now you're just insulting our intelligence. With Batman, this notion that he would never kill is insulting to my intelligence. Unless he's not visiting unspeakable violence on people. But there's thousands of times I read in the comics like, oh yeah, that would have killed a guy. And it's unrealistic to think that Batman, as a mortal human being, could get into an armed conflict with 15 thugs armed with body armor and weapons and expect, yeah, I'm sure there's not going to be any casualties here. I'm sure there's not going to be any casualties. And I think the way that Zack Snyder addressed it was perfectly fine. I thought it felt perfectly grounded. I thought it felt perfectly realistic. And I thought, he never went out of his way to murder anybody, but in the midst of combat, like Iron Man, like Thor, like Black Widow, like Captain America, in the midst of armed conflict, sometimes the results is the people entering into that armed conflict with you, they might become a casualty. And I felt like Batman did it no differently, and I have personally always been perfectly fine in what Zack Snyder was going for with a more gritty, a more grounded kind of superhero film with Batman and whatnot. I kind of understand his comment saying you're living in a dream world if you think that could happen and no fatalities would happen. I get it. I don't defend how he said it. I don't defend the way he was addressing his fans. I don't defend any of that. I'm just saying I kind of get it. But anyway, Rob, I've ranted on about this long enough. You saw Zack Snyder's comments and the whole issue. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, I feel exactly the way you do. I mean, even as a kid,
I'm actually surprised. I thought you felt opposite of me. Honestly, I really did.
But even as a kid, I understood that. Okay, I'm reading comic books, and they're not going to allow people to die. When you're watching the G.I. Joe animated series, it's as if no one's going to die. I knew even as a kid,
there'll always be the parachute. When G.I. Joe blows up a Cobra plane, they always show the parachute coming down. Don't worry, they're fine. I've always
understood that in combat, people die. One of the most annoying, I've never been really angry at fandom until Man of Steel came out. And I had to listen to all the idiots, and I will call you all idiots. I love you all, but these people were idiots, saying that Superman doesn't kill and he never would have killed Zod. And I'm thinking to myself, they're bringing an extinction level event onto the planet Earth. They've got a world engine in the Indian Ocean. They're going to destroy all life on Earth. And people were mad that Superman killed Zod. I'm like, what was he going to do? There's not a jail on the Earth that's going to hold him. There's nothing you can do with Zod. You either throw him into the sun and vanquish him forever, or you snap his neck and kill him. Superman, and that was something bad. I'm like, Superman saved the planet. He literally saved 7 billion people. And if it cost him the life of one Kryptonian or whoever else, that's the cost of war. That's what war is. And Batman has been waging a war on crime. It makes sense that he has high caliber machine guns on the Batmobile in Batman v Superman. I mean, Batman does not care. Like in our minds, like, oh, Batman doesn't kill. Well, in the real world, that doesn't work. I mean, if guys are coming at you with weapons of destruction, what are you going to do? Like try and dodge bullets until one clips you and you're taken down? You have to fight. You have to fight fire with fire. You have to fight force with commensurate force, and that's what Batman does. I've never believed Batman doesn't kill. I've always understood in my mind, even as a kid, Batman has to kill. Just like when a swordsman shows up with scimitars in Raiders, rather than fight that guy, Indiana Jones guns him down. I don't think Indiana Jones is less of a hero. In the world that human beings have created over the last 10,000 years or whatever, we got to kill some motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way it works. That's the way it works. People got to die. If you're fighting a war against evil, you don't coddle evil, hoping evil's going to get better. Evil must be vanquished. You know, and okay, maybe you take the Nazis to Nuremberg and put them on trial. But you know what? The Nazis weren't doing that to civilian populations.
Well, the other thing here, don't forget though, it's not like Batman, never in the movies did Batman go, other than with Superman, because he thought Superman was going to end the world. He never, like some people would often ask me, Rob, they say, well, then why didn't Batman just go out and murder the Joker? Because Batman in the movie, Zack Snyder never had Batman setting out with the purpose of killing people. But if you enter into combat with him, you may end up dead. If you choose to get into combat with Batman, you may end up dead. But it's not like he was going out of his way going, I think I'm going to murder some people today. I mean, no, I don't think that wasn't his approach.
You're exactly right. I mean, Batman is not somebody who wants to go out and kill. Nobody wants to go out and kill. That's not something. I mean, I'm sure there's some people. There's villains and serial killers and all that want to hunt humans or whatever. But our heroes, their raison d'être is to do good and to help others. That's what they're trying to do. But you know, in Superman 2, the beginning of that movie, those terrorists have a nuclear bomb in the Eiffel Tower. Now, you don't see Superman kill anybody in Superman 2 until perhaps the very end. But when you're dealing with terrorists that have a nuclear bomb that is going to destroy one of the most beautiful cities in the world, I don't think it's beyond reason to think a couple of guys might have to die in saving that city. And you're not going to, I mean, Superman doesn't kill. Yeah, you're right. Just let those villains detonate that nuclear bomb.
Well, and to your point, like in a situation like that, okay, Superman could very reasonably get in there and take those guys out without much problem, without having to kill them. A couple of regular human guys, he could zip in there with the super speed, take him out, blah, blah, blah. With Zod, a lifelong trained military guy, and Superman's been Superman for a day, and Superman's able to finally get him into a hold, and Zod says to him, oh, by the way, you got me right now, but I ain't going to stop till I kill every single human being on this earth. Well, this isn't some regular human terrorist. This is Zod, who's going to get out of this hold eventually, and he just told me that once he does, he's killing everybody. What's he supposed to do? And I think more people were mad at Zack Snyder for I think if they really searched their hearts, Rob, they weren't mad that Superman had to kill Zod. They were mad that Superman was put in a position where he would have to kill Zod. But everybody wanted, DC to be more grounded, more real. It's like, all right, you want grounded? You want real? Here's the situation. This dude's got to make a life or death decision right here, right now. It's not what he woke up this morning wanting to do, but he's found himself in this situation. What does Superman do? Does he let the world die, or does he take out Zod? There was no third option. Everybody likes to pretend there were third and fourth options. Zack Snyder crafted a scenario where there was no third option. It was either you let this guy loose and he's going to go kill everybody, or you got to end him. And I see that kind of in the same tone with Batman. And again, getting back to Zack Snyder, I don't think he should have unleashed like that. I don't think he should have put down people who have the opinion, because I'll have a good debate with people who think Batman shouldn't kill in the movies, and we'll have fun. We'll debate it. I'll never say, grow the F up. I'm not going to say that to anybody, but again, I just keep in mind, he's probably had to address this question 5,000 times. He's probably heard it a million times. The amount of shit he's probably taken from people over the last 2 years over this one issue is probably be enough to drive any of us to our wits' end. And he kind of unloaded. Should he have? No. But in our human hearts, we got to at least make a little bit of room that we can understand why maybe a human dude might finally just want to unload a little bit of that, right? So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that.